A very good evening and welcome to the News Tonight, your one-stop for the day's top stories. Let's start with the headlines. India and Israel signed 7 agreements after summit-level talks between Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Terrorism and development cooperation dominate agenda as leaders pitch for increased people-to-people contact. Flood situation worsens in Assam. 17 people are killed as overflowing rivers burst their banks. More than 3.8 lakh people are affected in 848 villages. Lakhimpur, Jorhat and Nalbari districts are the worst hit. After 20 days of a standoff in Sikkim, China reiterates that its border in Doklam region is clearly defined, once again urging India to withdraw troops from the area. And a day after North Korea tests ballistic missile capable of reaching the US, China tells it is not to violate UN Security Council resolutions. US calls for global action to hold Pyongyang accountable for its pursuit of nuclear weapons. Our top story this evening: India and Israel on Wednesday stepped up their bilateral relationship to a strategic format. 7 important agreements were signed between the two countries after the conclusion of summit-level talks between Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu today. Details in this report.
India and Israel signed 7 agreements at summit-level talks between Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu on Wednesday. They include 3 agreements on space technology, 2 on water, 1 on innovation and 1 of Mashav, the Israeli Agency for International Development Cooperation. Terrorism, development cooperation and trade dominated the talks between the two leaders, who decided to make concerted efforts for increasing people-to-people contact.
India and Israel are changing our world and maybe changing parts of the world, because this is a cooperation, it's a marriage really made in heaven, but we're implementing it here on earth. We spoke about so many fields where we think we can make a big difference. A big difference in water, in agriculture, in health, in every field.
I'm honored to be in Israel on this extraordinary visit. In our modern journey, our paths have been different, but our belief in democratic values and economic progress has been a shared pursuit. Visit is an occasion to rejuvenate the bonds of our friendship, to compose a new chapter in our ties, and to jointly venture toward new horizons of engagement.
Narendra Modi also called on Israeli President Reuven Rivlin and discussed ways to strengthen bilateral ties. He also pitched the centre's Make in India initiative with the president.
It is good and it is really a pleasure to have as a guest one of the greatest leaders of the world today, Prime Minister Modi. Welcome. Welcome to India.
India का आई, Israel का आई. So eye for eye with eye. मैं समझता हूँ ये टेक्नोलॉजी पक्की मुझे नजर आ रही है, और जब हम लोग बोलते हैं इजराइल तो हमारे लोगों का फीलिंग आता है Israel is a friend, means each real fact is Rahul.
On Tuesday, Prime Minister Netanyahu welcomed Prime Minister Modi to his residence in Jerusalem. During a joint news conference, both leaders talked about battling terrorism.
Yad Vashem tells us that those who believe in humanity and civilized values must come together and defeat it at all costs. As such, we must resolutely oppose the evils of terrorism, radicalism, and violence that plague our time.
But I have to say that we also face common challenges, and the first of it is to defeat the forces of terror that rampage through the world and threaten both our countries. So we must stand together in this battle, much as we work together to perfect the future.
This is the first visit ever by an Indian Prime Minister to Israel. Modi arrived in Tel Aviv on Tuesday for a 3-day visit. In an unprecedented gesture, Israeli Prime Minister and his entire cabinet accorded a special welcome by receiving Prime Minister Modi at the airport, an honor so far bestowed only on the US President and the Pope. Akhilesh Suman's report for Rajya Sabha TV.
Akhilesh Suman, a correspondent, in fact, joining us now from the newsroom. Akhilesh, this friendship that we are seeing, of course, between both the leaders, it seems to be also corresponding to the friendship that we're now going to be seeing between both the countries.
Yes, Tracy, this is indeed one of the biggest moments in relationship between India and Israel. Though both were having a very good relationship between the two countries, but you know, this is the first time that Prime Minister of India has gone there, and you can see the whole lot of welcome gestures, not only from the dispensation, but also from the people's side. And you know, the type of relationship that India wanted with a country that can provide equipments in whatever manner it wanted and in whatever quantity it wanted. And Israel is one such country. Though we had very good relationship and fantastic delivery mechanism with Russia also, but Israel is having newest technology at par with any European or Americans. So India feels very comfortable in getting the most modern technology. And you know that this is some sort of strategic format, because India and Israel also decided to go together in the world, not only between India and Israel relationship, but also for development of the whole world. And you know that Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, mentioned a specific name of Africa, where India is present in a big way, but in soft power. And if joined hand with Israel, India and Israel can do wonders in all those African countries, where both China, America, and many of the European countries are competing with each other in exploiting the natural resources. But India has gone in a different format. And if Israel wants to join hand with India in those countries, it will be really very positive signal for all the African countries who have much weight in the whole United Nations. So it's really indeed a very good time for Israel, and also good time for India. I have seen that the type of body language between both the Prime Minister, and also when Prime Minister Narendra Modi met President Rivlin, he mentioned eye for eye, I for India, I for Israel. So it is some of the gestures that Prime Minister Narendra Modi shown to President, and also he said that join make in India with make with India. So Israel always tells that make with India, India tells make in India. So it is, you know, that complemented to each other, and the type of agreement signed, there's something beyond those agreements. And you know that the whole equipments to fight terrorism, whole equipment to fight, to safeguard the defense opportunity, defense requirements between India and Israel, it goes into different format, and it will indeed will be coming in coming days, because it is decided, you know, that in a different format. But the whole relationship has gone in a new jump, and you can see the results coming in coming years. Tracy.
Absolutely. Akhilesh, thanks so much for joining us for those details. Day 2 of Modi's visit, of course, being successful. And apart from those big political meetings, of course, in what was an emotional homecoming, Prime Minister Modi also took out time to meet baby Moshe, the Israeli boy who lost his parents in the 2008 Mumbai terror attacks. Moshe Holzberg is now 11 years old and has been living in Israel with his grandparents. He met Prime Minister Modi along with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Reports claim that the meeting was planned on a personal request by the Prime Minister, who wanted to meet the 26/11 survivor and his nanny, Sandra Samuels. 53-year-old Samuels was granted honorary Israeli citizenship in 2008. And she said that she frequently travels from her home in Jerusalem to visit Moshe and his grandparents. Moshe will be visiting Chabad House in Mumbai after 2 years when he is 13. Now let's get you the latest on the India-China diplomatic row. And Beijing today reiterated that its border in Sikkim's Dokla region is clearly defined. Speaking to the media on Wednesday, China's foreign ministry spokesperson once again urged India to withdraw troops from what it called China's territory. For over 20 days now, both countries have been involved in a standoff in Sikkim, where India's opposed China's attempt to extend a border road through a plateau known as Dokla in India and Donglang in China. On Wednesday, Chinese media too stepped up its attack on India, asking Indian troops to move out of Dokla with dignity or be kicked out. China's nationalistic tabloid Global Times said that India should be taught a bitter lesson, while China Daily said that India should be very worried. The Global Times also said in its editorial that India will suffer greater losses than in 1962 if it incites border clashes with China. The row comes as Prime Minister Modi prepares to meet with Chinese President Xi Jinping at the G20 summit in Germany this week. We're at a quick break here. We'll be back with more news in a bit. Stay with us.
Launch of the GST. Was it right on the part of Congress to boycott the event?
This attempt to equate the launch of GST with the independence of India, that's what we were opposed. I called GST grand self-promotional tamasha.
Nitish Kumar has consistently been saying that it is Congress which is solely responsible for the current mess in which the opposition is.
Media also, hypes up statements and they try to read between the lines.
A lot has been written about the fact that about the high command culture which exists within the Congress party. And
you think the high command culture doesn't exist in the BJP?
Watch To The Point with senior Congress leader Jairam Ramesh only on Rajya Sabha television.
I think they're ready to surrender.
आईएनए की बागी फौजियों पर अंग्रेज देशद्रोह का मुकदमा चलाएंगे।
उन तीनों के बचने के चांसेस कम हैं।
ये कोई आम केस नहीं, कोर्ट मार्शल है। बोला भाई ये केस आप कांग्रेस के लिए नहीं, सुभाष बोस के लिए लड़ी।
Lieutenant Gobak Singh Dillon, Captain Shah Nawaz Khan, Captain P.K. Sehgal. Section 41, waging war against the king. You are charged with murder. Do you plead guilty to the charges read out?
ईमानदारी से आजादी के लिए लड़ने वाली अगर कोई फौज है तो उसका नाम है आजाद हिंद फौज।
The safety, honor and welfare of your country comes first, always.
British Indian Army hand you over to the Japanese Imperial Army.
हिंदुस्तान और अंग्रेजों के बीच एक धागा था, वो टूट गया।
इस बार कुछ ऊपर नीचे हुआ तो देश में बवाल मच जाए। अब जनता किसी अंग्रेज को नहीं छोड़ेगी।
रात दिन अपने सीने विच वजदी आजादी दे राग नू बंद कर ला।
अंग्रेजी अफसरों ने साडी हिफाजत नहीं की, तो वो हमारी वफादारी के हकदार किस तरह हो सकते हैं?
आज हिंदुस्तानी फौज के पास अपना असली मकसद है, हिंदुस्तान की आजादी।
तुम मुझे खून दो, मैं तुम्हें आजादी दूंगा।
ये मुकदमा पूरी इंडियन नेशनल आर्मी का है।
क्योंकि हमने वो दिन देखा है जब हमें ऐसा लगा था कि हमने हिंदुस्तान को वाकई आजाद कर दिया।
देश की आजादी की लड़ाई कोर्ट में लड़ी जा रही है और इस वक्त पूरा देश एक साथ तैनात है।
This trial and its judgment shall be remembered throughout history.
Welcome back. Let's get your national news now. And the Supreme Court on Wednesday sought to know from the centre why there was no law, according to the provisions in the Constitution, to appoint the Chief Election Commissioner and election commissioners. The court, however, clarified that election commissioners appointed so far have all been outstanding people of impeccable integrity.
अगर पार्लियामेंट ने इस पर कोई कानून नहीं बनाया है, जैसे कि सीबीआई के केस में या सीबीसी के केस में बनाया हुआ है या लोकपाल के केस में, तो फिर क्या कोर्ट सरकार को आदेश नहीं दे सकती कि भाई ऐसा एक इंडिपेंडेंट कमेटी के रिकमेंडेशन के आधार पर नियुक्त की जाए?
In its response, the centre asked that when Parliament itself felt no need to enact a law, can the Supreme Court then step into the legislative arena and set norms for it? The court explained that it considers the matter very important because election commissioners discharge a very important job of ensuring free and fair elections. Stating that it will decide on the issue after a detailed hearing, the apex court scheduled the case for hearing after 2 months. Constitutional experts feel the selection process should be done by a panel like that for the CAG and the Chief Justice of India.
I don't think law is necessary because there is already a provision in the Constitution which says that the President shall appoint the Chief Election Commissioner and other commissioners. The procedure can be provided by executive order.
And in more national news, Congress Vice President Rahul Gandhi on Wednesday criticized Prime Minister Narendra Modi for not raising the H-1B visa issue during his recent visit to the United States. In a series of tweets, Rahul called Modi a weak Prime Minister for accepting the US reference to Jammu and Kashmir as Indian-administered Kashmir. The Congress on its Twitter handle also said that Modi's US visit was merely a photo opportunity and the main issues were bypassed. The Congress had earlier urged Modi to take up during his meeting with Trump the issues of H-1B visa, racial attacks on Indians and cross-border terrorism from Pakistan.
Prime Minister's visit has purely been transactional. He has not been able to firmly articulate India's interests and also convey India's concerns. We had cautioned the Prime Minister before he went to America that he should secure credible and firm assurances from US President Donald Trump on an H-1B/B1 visa issues.
The flood situation in Assam worsened with around 4 lakh people being affected across the state. Over 800 villages across the state are affected. Relief camps and control rooms have been set up by the government for immediate help. Here's a report.
The flood situation in Assam remains grim with more than 3.8 lakh people affected in 848 villages, including in Lakhimpur, Jorhat and Nalbari districts. Heavy monsoon rains have caused the already overflowing rivers to burst their banks, killing 17 people so far.
April, May, June, 3 months अभी तक about there is a loss of 16 persons. 60 persons lost their lives during this season flood, and so far area is concerned to 4,27,400 number of people are affected in 848 villages of 56 revenue circle this season May.
The Brahmaputra and Barak rivers have submerged hundreds of low-lying areas and damaged over 19,000 hectares of crop area. The state government has set up 148 relief camps and distribution centers in 8 districts where more than 24,000 people are currently taking shelter.
We are monitoring the situation. Everything is under control. जो deputy commissioner है वो उनका line department का आदमी के साथ हर तरफ मदद कर रहे हैं.
The Brahmaputra is flowing above the danger mark at Nipati Ghat in Jorhat and at Tezpur in Sonitpur. Ferry services on the Brahmaputra have also been suspended until further orders. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
And now let's take you through some more national news updates in Nationwide. Search operations are on in Arunachal Pradesh to locate the missing Indian Air Force helicopter with 3 operating personnel on board. The advanced light helicopter of the Indian Air Force was engaged in flood rescue mission in the state and went missing yesterday at 3:50 p.m. The helicopter was stranded due to floods and had made 5 sorties. Gorkha Janmukti Morcha supporters hurled petrol bombs at TMC party office in Kalimpong as the indefinite shutdown sponsored by the outfit continued. They also took out a rally in Chowk Bazar area with traditional kukri shouting slogans in support of a separate state of Gorkhaland. GJM Supremo Bimal Gurung said that talks can only be held if the agenda is Gorkhaland. The Sensex closed up nearly 36 points at 31,245, while the Nifty ended higher up by 24 points at 9,637. The market breadth was positive as 1,685 shares advanced against a decline of 982 shares, while 144 shares were unchanged. Lupin, ONGC and Vedanta gained the most, while ITC, Wipro and Infosys lost the most. The Jammu and Kashmir Assembly passed a resolution to implement the GST amid protests by opposition parties. Meanwhile, BJP members and independent MLA from Udhampur, Pawan Gupta, supported the extension of the 101st Amendment of the Constitution to Jammu and Kashmir. The amendment enabled the centre to roll out the new tax regime across the country. However, opposition, the National Conference and Congress members demanded a separate bill in the Assembly which would safeguard Article 370 of the Constitution. Back to international news, and a day after North Korea launched a long-range nuclear-capable ballistic missile, China has urged Pyongyang to respect the UNSC resolutions. China also alluded to the joint statement it made with Russia, where both countries expressed concern over the launch activities of Pyongyang.
China has urged North Korea not to violate UN Security Council resolutions a day after Pyongyang launched an intercontinental ballistic missile that it claims is capable of carrying a large nuclear warhead. Some experts believe that ICBM launched on Tuesday could reach the mainland United States.
中方反对朝方违反安理会决议进行有关发射活动，敦促朝方不要再采取有违联合国安理会决议的行为。另外，我想你可能已经注意到了，中俄两国的外交部昨天发表了关于朝俄问题的联合声明。在声明中，中俄双方也对有关的发射活动表示了严重的关切。
Chinese President Xi Jinping also held talks with the German Chancellor on the sidelines of the G20 summit in Berlin on a range of issues, including North Korea.
Wir werden beim Mittagessen über die internationalen Situationen noch intensiver sprechen. Wir haben das gestern Abend schon begonnen mit den Themen Nordkorea natürlich, aber auch Rolle der Vereinten Nationen.
Earlier, the US and South Korea conducted joint missile drills off the southern half of the Korean peninsula, presumably in a show of force after the North's missile test.
이번 한미연합 미사일 사격은 북한의 어떠한 도발도 용납하지 않겠다는 한미 동맹의 강력한 의지를 표현한 것입니다.
South Korea also unveiled a simulation video on Wednesday showing its military capability against North Korea. The video explains the country's core countermeasures against North Korea's military provocations. The video also showed a missile being dropped on what appeared to be the Ministry of People's Armed Forces in Pyongyang. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
And now let's take you through some more international news updates in Global Buzz. In London, a task force will be sent in to take over parts of Kensington and Chelsea Council in the wake of the Grenfell Tower fire, which occurred on the 14th of June. The council has been heavily criticised for its handling of the disaster. The fire killed at least 80 and injured 70, but the authorities are still not sure of the actual figures. The task force has been ordered to take over the housing department as well as other council operations. Former Guantanamo Bay inmate Omar Khadr will be paid $6 million as compensation by the Canadian government for the abuse that he suffered in detention. Canadian-born Khadr was convicted in 2010 by a U.S. military commission of killing a U.S. soldier in Afghanistan. He was captured in 2002 at the age of 15 and spent a decade in the U.S. prison. In 2010, Canada's Supreme Court ruled that he was interrogated under oppressive circumstances. A New York City police officer was shot and killed on Wednesday. The assailant was later shot down while trying to escape the scene. Authorities said that this was an unprovoked direct attack on the police officers in the city. This happens to be the 8th such attack on police authorities in New York in the past 3 years. A U.S. congressman has been criticized for his 5-minute-long video inside the Auschwitz concentration camp. The Memorial and Museum tweeted that the gas chamber was not a stage, but was a place for mournful silence. The museum responded that it was inappropriate to speak inside the gas chambers, and later also posted a picture of the entrance to the building showing a sign asking for silence. The Netherlands' foreign ministry has announced that suspects in the shooting down of the MH17 passenger jet will be prosecuted in a Dutch court. 300 people died when the Malaysia Airlines flight was shot down in 2014. The investigation concluded that a Russian missile was used to bring down the plane. That's all we have for you on the news tonight. Thank you so much for joining us.